The men's Sweet 16 is set. What happened? How did we get here? How is my bracket looking? And what can we expect from the round of 16? Welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. Let's get into it. First, do not forget to head on over to brandonsilvers.com and subscribe to my weekly newsletter where I give you all these sporting events that you need to watch every week. Drops on Thursday, so you're set for the weekend. What a first weekend we had. It was great, in my opinion. We had 3 true upsets, which I consider anything bigger than a 7-10 game. We had 11 VCU take out North Carolina in the first round, 12 High Point took out Wisconsin, and 11 Texas took out BYU. Then, second round, 3 games came down to the final possession. The most exciting game out of the 3, which is wild because they were all exciting, Nebraska and Vanderbilt. Okay? The Cornhuskers had not won a game, a true tournament game in their history before this tournament, taking on a very good Vandy team that I enjoy watching. Vandy had a chance to win it. A half-court shot rimmed out at the buzzer, a la Gordon Hayward in the national championship game against Duke. Then the other one, St. John's, taking on Kansas. The kid, the point guard, Darling, only shot of the game, a buzzer-beating layup. The vampire Rick Pitino survives. And perhaps the most confusing final possession game of that round, Florida and Iowa. I don't know what Florida was doing there at the end defensively when they gave up the three-pointer to take the lead. I can't recall seeing a team full court press in that instance. Normally you want to keep everyone in front of you, but they didn't do that for whatever reason. And the kid knocked down a wide open 3. And of course they did the great story on his father who died, who he always honors by pointing to the sky. A little bit uncomfortable, but we have to exploit the sad stories, but it was inspirational. And then coming back down the court with a chance to win the game, Florida had Xavier Lee, who has been much maligned, I believe you would call him this season. The Ivy League transfer took the ball all the way in to the hoop, a couple seconds left, and jumped in the air with probably a second and a half left and tried to pass it out. And of course, there was not enough time for that. So he actually looked okay for much of this game. That was a confusing transfer because I remember watching him some in the Ivy League. He was a very good Ivy League player. But when you see a mid-major guy who is going to be good taking that step to the next level, I feel like they pop a little bit more, and he didn't really have that. And I think that it wasn't even the athleticism. I think he was just overwhelmed with the hype and expectations coming in. Walter Clayton Jr. replacing him. And it just overwhelmed him in the beginning of the season, where even against other mid-majors, he just looked bad. Got semi on track towards the middle and end of the season, which is how Florida was able to earn the 1 seed. And then we just kind of went reverse in this game, where he started off doing well, and then at the end, you end it on that play. Not enough time to do any of that. And so Florida, the first 1 seed to head home. This has really been a tournament of the Big Ten. They have looked great outside of Wisconsin against High Point. And the SEC, now we are holding them up to the light to see if they are frauds. The other big talking point to come out of this tournament so far, the Sweet 16 doesn't have any mid-majors This is the second year in a row, I believe. Is Cinderella dead? Everyone is blaming, of course, paying players in the transfer portal. In my opinion, is the transfer portal a factor? Yes. However, I don't think it's a huge factor. I think it evens out because you do lose players, so you don't have the roster continuity that mid-majors typically need to go on these runs. But they also get talented players they might not have had a chance at in previous years because those guys, they're not getting playing time at the power conference schools, so they drop down and try to get back on track at a mid-major. So I think that's a factor, but not the biggest one. To me, the biggest factor when it comes to mid-majors making deep runs into the tournament is actually coaching turnover. There is more turnover at the top. Teams are not letting coaches mess around. Like, if you're bad, we have to move on. There's too much money involved. That means, who are they hiring to replace these coaches? They're dropping down and taking chances on these good mid-major coaches faster. And so you can't really build at the mid-major level. And most mid-major coaches have an eye towards moving on pretty quickly. Even just a generation ago, right before the transfer portal and NIL stuff started, you had guys like Shaka Smart at VCU, Jim Larinaga at George Mason, Greg Marshall at Wichita State. They each coached at their mid-major school 4 years, at least 4 years after making a Final Four appearance. I cannot imagine that would happen today. The closest comp would be Dusty May at Florida Atlantic. And I think he was there just a year after his Final Four appearance. And a big factor in that was most of his guys came back, I believe. So you're not really seeing guys stick around as long at that mid-major level. And, I think that a Final Four mid-major team is an extreme example. But even if we look at teams who were quote-unquote Cinderellas in the past, but didn't make it all the way to the Final Four, maybe they won a game or two in the tournament, those guys aren't moving on either. To me, John Kress at the College of Charleston, I grew up, born and raised in Charleston. He was the standard, went to his basketball camps. CFC, to me, was Gonzaga before Gonzaga. He made at one point, he won the NAIA national title in the early 80s, which might be good enough to get you a look these days. He probably wouldn't have stayed at the NIA level for as long as he did and help Charleston eventually transition to Division I. Then when they get to Division I believe at one point he made 3 straight NCAA tournament appearances with CFC and like 4 out of 5. I cannot imagine that happening. I mean, it's even weird to me. He retired before he turned 60. And you've got Patino, who I mentioned at 273 years old. He would have been snatched up, in my opinion, or even the real Gonzaga with Mark Few. I think in today's landscape, after that first Sweet 16 appearance, I think he's gone. He certainly is not hanging around as long as he's hung around, which has allowed them to build Gonzaga into a national powerhouse despite what has happened in the first weekend where they have lost already. So to me, it's the coaching turnover is more of a factor than anything else. I think on top of that, to a slightly lesser extent, seeding. You are less likely to get the benefit of the doubt if you are a mid-major team. 2014 Wichita State, talking about Greg Marshall, they were 35-0 entering the NCAA tournament. They only beat 2 Power 4 teams. They barely beat them. And they still got a number 1 seed because they made the Final Four the previous year. That is the only non-Gonzaga, non-Power 4 slash Big East team that I can think of that's gotten a 1 seed in my lifetime, and then they lost early to Kentucky. Even looking at these other schools that have made those Cinderella runs, talked about FAU, they made the Final Four. The next year, they got an 8 seed, which is probably what Dusty May was looking at. He's like, damn, I made the Final Four last year. I returned most of my important players. They had a slightly worse season, but my seeding has improved by 1 spot. And Michigan is offering how much? So that's probably played a role in him leaving. And even Butler making the title game, they got an 8 seed the next year and made it again. It has another coach, Brad Stevens. He obviously moved on to the Celtics. That's another guy. 2 finals appearances, under 40. You mean to tell me if he did that today, he would not be at a Virginia Tech or one of these schools? They wouldn't back up the Brinks truck for him. So those are extreme examples, but even looking at Miami of Ohio, they were the undefeated team heading into their conference tournament. They did not win the conference tournament championship, but they got an 11 seed, a play-in 11 seed, which they won against ACC SMU, who was without one of their most important players, but still a win is a win. Then they lost to 6 seed Tennessee. Would they still be alive if maybe they got a little bit better seeding? Like if they were a 6 seed or even a 9 seed and had to play an 8 seed, would they still be here? Maybe. But we don't give the benefit of the doubt to those mid-majors anymore. We'd rather give it to a second or third tier power conference team. So I do think the overall factor is money to lure coaches, money to fire coaches, TV money that incentivizes the committee to prioritize these power conference teams with larger fan bases over mid-majors. Everyone is always so quick to blame the players getting paid and the players being able to move, when really, let's start with the coaches getting paid and the coaches moving, as they have always done, except the money's a lot bigger now, so they're moving much faster and much more frequently. And this is hard, just yapping all the way straight through. My cardio, I've been doing the Miami Heat Challenge. If you followed on this page, the Miami Heat conditioning test, 5 sets of 10 down and backs. Try to get it under a minute. I'm not there yet. For each set, 2 minutes rest in between. I think I have to take that up a notch so that I can figure out how to talk and yap as much as I yap if I'm not going to do any edits, because I could possibly, especially the weather's getting hotter, I could faint on camera. I don't know. But an even bigger question to me, other than the Cinderella, where have they gone, is do we even really want upsets? So what is the purpose? What is the purpose of the NCAA tournament? Number 1, entertainment. Second to that is finding a champion. How do I know that? Because if you were trying to find truly the best team in college basketball each season, you would not have a 1-game sample size that everyone had to survive. That's just not how you find champions. You need larger sample sizes. So upsets are awesome. Do not get me wrong, especially when it's a mid-major team. As a man of integrity, I will always pull for a mid-major upset over whatever my bracket says. That's just the kind of person I am. I think if you don't do that, then you are selfish and we need to shun you from society because you don't care about everyone's happiness the way that I do and the way that you should. But what takes precedent for me over upsets are good games, particularly deep in the tournament. So how do we get those? Well, it comes down to matchups, the factors that go into matchups: systems, talent, size, athleticism. The biggest gap between mid-majors and Power 4 teams, as you've seen, if you looked at the games, going to be size and athleticism. This places a bigger importance on the mastering of a system. But again, with the player and coach turnover, that's going to make that much harder to do. So when you do get these early round, first round upsets, second round upsets, less so, but sometimes the size athleticism gap becomes that much more pronounced moving forward. So at the end of the day, a couple of first round upsets are fun, but they're going to lead to too many blowouts later on. I believe the perfect upset round are going to be these round of 32 upsets, because it's generally a team with enough size and athleticism to keep things competitive down the road in the tournament. Like Iowa and Texas, those are Power 4 teams. They're more likely to make deep runs if they get hot. And they could just be teams that, not everyone figures out how to win from the beginning of the season and they just carry it on. It could just be Iowa and Texas. They've had good enough seasons to make the tournament, but they were just a degree or two off. So now they get into the tournament, something has clicked, and now they can make a deep run, and they have all the tools there to do so. With that being said, I think the tournament is playing out exactly in this way that's going to make it fun down the stretch. More importantly, how is my bracket looking? So let's take a look and catch my breath. Okay. So on ESPN's Tournament Challenge, I'm in the 74th percentile. I have locked it in on this site because, again, I'm a man of integrity. I don't want anybody to accuse me of changing my picks. This Ohio State TCU game, I mentioned I'll pull for an upset over my bracket. An 8-9 game that I lose by 2 points is not an upset that I would pull for. This upset me. Versus being an upset, it upset me. The Kansas Cal Baptist game, that made me look silly, as did Louisville, South Florida. I think right here with those two games, I was just hunting upsets, and you never want to be in a position to do that. I don't feel bad about picking UCF over UCLA because I just couldn't pull for Mick Cronin. The VCU North Carolina upset pick, very popular pick, but it came true, so I'll take full credit. And then A&M over St. Mary's. St. Mary's coach Randy Bennett, not the most personable guy from his press conferences, number one, and also could be leaving for Arizona State, I saw. And he's been at St. Mary's forever. So that kind of speaks to what we were talking about before with the coaches moving, coaches who've never moved before. It kind of reminds me of Kyle Whittingham moving from Utah to Michigan in college football. The Santa Clara, Kentucky, that one also hurt. Akron and Texas Tech. I was right about Texas Tech, I believe. I think we saw that in the next round where they got blown out by Bama. I think I was just early. And I was way early because they won that first round game by 20. Mizzou just didn't show up, didn't care about me. The High Point game that I pulled for to beat Wisconsin because it was an upset. It is what it is. I'll take that L. So not terrible. Not terrible there. Before we get into my regrets, let's look at, if you follow this channel, and you should, my dog Kobe makes weekly NFL picks. We do the same thing for March Madness. except I will place the piece of food. There's two pieces of food. I'll place the one with the higher seed closer to him. I'll place it relative to the team's seeding to help him out. With that, his Final Four, he had Cal Baptist over Iowa and Long Island over Tennessee State, with Long Island winning the national championship. I mean, I don't know if he knows what the fuck he's doing. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say it quietly. I don't want him to hear. He's got big ears. Long Island was a 16 seed. They were blown out in the first round. Tennessee State was a 15 seed. They were blown out in the first round. I respect Cal Baptist as a first round pick because I made it too. They weren't going to make the national championship game. Still holding out hope. One of his final 4 games is remaining with Iowa, but tough for him. He is in the 4.7th percentile. So thoughts and prayers. He's still a good boy. And then the second round, how am I feeling? Well, number one, this was a good lesson in not caring too much for the top seeds first round game. This is something I've tried to be cognizant of. First round games for the 1 seed, win it. That's it. Win it. That's the main priority. And then staying healthy is number 2. If you can do that, doesn't matter how bad or good you look, in my opinion. We saw that because Duke looked terrible against Siena, almost lost, would have been funny. Didn't happen. And then they came out and drilled TCU the next round. Florida looked like gangbusters against Prairie View. And then they're going home. They didn't even make the Sweet 16. So that's just good moving forward, something I will forget. My bracket strategy also features a lot of grudges, and some I will if a team has let me down in previous tournaments, I will punish them for that, much to my detriment. And on the flip side, if a team has performed well for me in previous tournaments, then I think they are going to move forward, even though none of the teams have anything to do with each other. Like, who cares that Tennessee no longer has Chris Lofton? Like, that was 20 years ago. But I like Chris Lofton. And so I did not pick Tennessee going far this year because I hate Rick Barnes more. But what's the reason I hate Rick Barnes? Because at Clemson, he couldn't perform well. Okay. My regrets moving forward. Well, let's see. My regrets right now. The Vandy one, not really a regret, but it got bad in my home when I watched that shot go in and out because I had Vandy going to the Elite Eight and I was sick. Wasn't too concerned about Florida because I'm not a Todd Golden guy. A little nervous about Houston. We'll talk about that. I think, not terrible. Not terrible. So let's get into these matchups. 2 seed Purdue versus 11 seed Texas. This straight up, can Texas hit threes? Purdue, like 300th in defending. Well, no. Purdue is okay at defending the 3. Let me double check this. Let's just pull up this. We don't have to guess. I forgot I'm doing this. I could just share my screen with you. Perfect. Can Texas hit threes? How is Purdue at defending threes? Not bad. .6 a game, 25 attempts per game. That shit don't matter. here's what matters. In Purdue's losses, they give up a lot of threes. They give up some great 3-point performances by the opposing team. This is what I was trying to get to. I'll show you that. Very hard when you don't just have everything written down and you can just yap about it off that and edit it. Here are Purdue's worst 3-point defending games. Okay, 13 of 23, 18 of 34, 12 of 25, 11 of 23, 18 of 38. That is well over 47%. We'll even take it down to the UCLA game. 9 of 20. If a team shoots 45% from three and they take at least 15 threes, Purdue is 2 and 5. For a team that's only lost 8 games, 5 of them coming under that circumstance, seems significant to me. The problem for Texas, they are going to need an outlier performance because Texas, as we're going to see, not a fantastic 3-point shooting team. Okay? They don't shoot a lot. They make 7 a game, shoot 21. In the mid 200s nationally, their best players, not high volume 3-point guys. Jordan Pope, he's good. Camden Heide, I believe that's how you say his last name. He's good. Other than that, and those aren't their high, super high usage guys. You got Swain, Vocatitis. I fucked that up. I'm sorry. And Mark, not fantastic high volume 3-point shooters. So someone is going to have to do something extraordinary. I don't know if we're going to get that. Unfortunately for Texas, I think I like Purdue in this matchup, but we'll see. It's March Madness, 1 game sample size. Like I was saying, you just need one guy to go nuts one day, and then you can move on. I'll pull up the schedule screen. As you can see, Purdue favored by 6.5. Vegas listening live, I guess, to what I'm saying. Next matchup, 9th seed Iowa, 4 seed Nebraska. The battle of the children of the corn. This is their 3rd matchup this year. They split the previous 2, and they were both close games. I think one went to overtime and one was within like 5 points. This was going to be another close game. I don't feel one way or another about it. Other than the fact that, as you can see, the spread, 1.5, is going to be low scoring. And these are 2 mostly lunatic fan bases. And so that's going to be fun. We've seen Iowa's fans when it comes to women's basketball. And I think it's also funny that they made the Sweet 16 a year after getting rid of Fran McCaffrey and then Fred Hoiberg leading Nebraska to their first ever tournament wins. Former Nebraska player, I believe. His son's on the team. They're favored to make it to the Elite 8. You just would not have picked either one of these teams to be playing for a chance. Like if I told you before the season, Nebraska or Iowa is going to make the Elite 8, you would have me drug tested. So we're just going to enjoy that one. No real analysis there because I don't even know what we're looking at. Then 4 seed Arkansas, 1 seed Arizona. Arkansas had been making me very anxious as someone who has picked them. They've been just hanging on by the skin of their teeth, barely got by High Point. A lot of March experience in Cal, even if he's not really thought of as an X's and O's guy. Acuff, he is certainly good enough to carry them offensively in any game. But along those lines, if you look at his individual defense, it embodies the Arkansas team defensive philosophy, this is not a compliment. Huge question mark going against a team like Arizona, who looked for much of the year like the best team in the country, had a program record winning streak to start the season, still obviously a 1 seed. Going to be an issue if you can't defend. I mean, this deep in the tournament, if you can't defend, I don't know what you're doing. Arizona averages 86 a game. The takeaway from watching them play so far, even in the regular season, if things are going tough for them and they need a big bucket, they are going to Jaden Bradley, and he is almost always going to deliver. That guy's clutch, hit the buzzer beater in the Big 12 tournament. He also, what else did we do here? Last night against Utah State was just hanging around. Arizona couldn't really get anything going. Bradley shows up, saves the day once again. Really good player, senior, experienced, came from Alabama, free from Nate Oates and all of his Nate Oatesness, but has just been a really solid ball player for Arizona the past 3 seasons. They obviously have a lot of other talent. Freshman Braden Burries, freshman Koa Pete, 2 top 5 recruits. They got Krivas, the big Lithuanian, 7'2". This feels like in Arkansas, I am a little scared just because I have Arizona winning it all, and they have disappointed me in the past when I've picked them to do that. But if I take that away, and you see they are favored by 7.5, Arizona, more talented team. I don't think what Acuff, and he's played well before, but he's played well in losses. Like, that's what scares me. If a guy can drop like 50 almost against Bama, and I think they still lost, what other answers do you have? So, big experience discrepancy between Coach Cal and Tommy Lloyd. I think this would be Tommy Lloyd's first Elite Eight appearance, and he was a longtime Gonzaga assistant, but feels like an Arizona win. All right. 3 seed, Illinois. 2 seed, Houston. If we go back here, we will see that I have picked Houston over Illinois. Houston's looked really good. I mean, they beat up on Idaho in the first round, and A&M 31 points to get to the Sweet 16. But for some reason, I'm still nervous. And Vegas says I should be nervous because this is only a 3.5 point spread, going to be low scoring. Oh, man. Speaking of great freshman guards like Acuff, you got Indiana's freshman Keaton Wagler and Houston's freshman Kingston Flemings. Somewhat opposing playing styles. If you hit 40% of your threes against Houston, you have a hell of a chance to win. They're 2-4 in those games. Illinois, on the flip side, they are 8-1 when they hit 40% of their threes. One of the best in the country at shooting them. I think I've got Houston going to the Final Four. I think the championship game, actually, to face Arizona. I'm going to be sweating this one out. What gives me hope, this game is in Houston. That is going to be a very tough environment to play in, I would imagine, for Illinois. Let's see how they're looking. Let's go to the old Illinois page. How do they perform on the road? We got some big losses at the old State Farm Center. Okay. Lost to Connecticut at Madison Square Garden. Lost to Michigan State in overtime. Lost to UCLA in overtime at Pauley Pavilion. To me, United Center is close enough to be considered a home game. So not a lot of stock in that. But again, this is also a team that's only lost 8 games. I like Kelvin Sampson more than I like Brad Underwood. Unfortunately, I don't know if that matters. So, going to be fun. Just pay attention to the 3-point shooting from Illinois specifically. Good luck to me. St. John's and Duke. It's a Friday game. Oh, St. John's, the 5th seed, survived on that buzzer beater like we talked about. Duke's the better team. That seems obvious. More talented, bigger, better. The story is going to be injuries. Ngangba missed the first round, played the second round. Then he was rolling around with a boot on his foot. Their 2 losses have come in his worst games of the season. They weren't going to lose that first round game against Siena. Well, they almost did. And I wonder if that was that close because he did not play. Like, I don't think it's a huge coincidence that their 2 losses have come in his worst games. And then they looked pretty non-Dukish against the 16 seed. Almost another historic, hilarious upset. Is he going to play? And what can Patino come up with, whether or not he does or doesn't? That's going to be the question there. Bama, Michigan, 4 seed Bama, 1 seed Michigan. I've talked about not a Nate Oates guy. He's very annoying. Huge spread here, 10.5. The reason for that, and the reason why I think Michigan is going to win, this is going to be the first tournament game where Bama is not at least equal in terms of talent, and they're just not good enough defensively. They lead the nation in 3-pointers made and attempted on offense, but they're going to have to go nuts to stay in this one with Michigan, who is just a bigger, better team. Holloway is Alabama's best 3-point shooter. He's got the felony charge that he's dealing with. He's not with the team. This feels more likely that Michigan wins by 15 plus than Alabama pulls the upset. Then 3 seed Michigan State, 2 seed UConn in DC. 2.5 point spread. A couple of coaches who I would not want to have dinner with in Tom Izzo and Dan Hurley, but 2 wildly successful coaches too. And a couple of guys who put up insane stats in the first weekend of the tournament. UConn's Terrace Reed Jr., 31 points, 27 rebounds against Furman in the first round. Michigan State's Jeremy Fears Jr., 16 assists against Louisville in the second round. Don't think he kicked anybody in the balls this time either. First team to 70 points is going to win the game. And I think if Michigan State is going to win it, they're going to have to make this a particularly ugly game, which is kind of their MO anyways. But I don't love Caravan for UConn. I don't know, there's just something about him. Like, he's been there for the national championships and everything, but I don't love him in just a slog of a game, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So we will see. I know Izzo just keeps succeeding. You just can't get rid of him. And finally, 6 seed Tennessee, 2 seed Iowa State. Rick Barnes shut me up. Congratulations to Rick. Tennessee actually won a game by executing better than the opposing team down the stretch. That Tennessee-Virginia game, it was That was a close-ish game towards the end. Tennessee pulled away just because they executed better than Virginia. And Virginia decided to start shooting like Tony Bennett was still the coach. The question for Tennessee is going to be, how are they scoring the ball? Are they moving it well? They are 18-3 when they hit the 16 assist mark. Flip side, are they stopping Iowa State from hitting threes? Momcilovic, best three-point shooter in the nation, ton of volume, hits a ton of them as well. So if they want to have a chance and overcome the Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silver's Rick Barnes curse dating back to the late 90s, they're going to have to move the ball on offense and stop Iowa State, a great three-point shooting team, from hitting threes defensively. I will say, as we see here, a lot of talent on Tennessee. Jacoby Gillespie, really good player. Nate Ament, really good player. Freshman, top 5 recruit. They're playing like it. This is going to be a close one. I'm leaning Iowa State here. But again, I'm really rattled by Rick Barnes not pooping his pants. So we'll see. Whew. Okay. That will do it. Let me come back here. That'll do it for this tournament update. I will be back tomorrow to update the women's tournament. I'm going to go watch the rest of those games now, actually. Thank you for watching, listening, rating, subscribing, reviewing, and sharing. Don't forget, head on over to brandonsilvers.com to sign up for my weekly newsletter where I give you all the sporting events you need to watch every week for free. You'll love it. Trust me. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow.